Hey guys, it's John with ReelBlue Custom Rods, and welcome back to part 2 of the 5 steps to building a custom gaff. So in this episode, it'll be a fairly short episode, but this episode we're going to really talk about applying your handle material. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and use some shrink tube like you see back here. This black and red cross pattern is what we'll be using for our handle material. And installing the shrink tube is pretty straightforward and it's pretty easy. But I think really there is one thing to take away, and that is making sure that you have the right size shrink tube when you're using. And so something that you want to, a little pro tip that you may want to consider if you're going to apply something like this shrink tube to your gaff handle, is you want to make sure that you have the shrink tube that will fit properly once it is shrunk onto the handle. I know that sounds kind of weird, so let's kind of get into that. The butt on this gaff handle is 0.835 inches, right? So what I mean by that is I need to find a shrink tube that will just barely fit over 0.835 inches. So that way when I apply heat to it, when it shrinks, it will shrink around the handle nice and tight. If I had a shrink tube that was way too big for the handle, it would shrink down to its smallest diameter and then still, possibly create bubbles or not have a good proper fit. So this gaff handle, 63-inch handle by Rain Shadow, is a 0.835 inches, which means I need a 25 millimeter, which is the next size up that would fit this. So a 25 millimeter, inside diameter of the shrink tube is about 0.9 and some change inches. So it basically, what I want is I want the shrink tube to I want it to barely fit over. I don't want it to be super loose, like sticking way out here or way out here, right? I want it to just barely cover it. So again, 0.835 inches. I have the shrink tube, the first shrink tube larger than 0.835 inches that will fit this handle. And then basically we just slide it on, right? And so I'm just sliding this on all the way down to where I want it to go to the end. Bear with me here. Bear with me here for a second. All right. And then what I don't want to do, as you can see, I've got a little bit sticking out. Some people like to go right to the end. Some people like to come here and then put their butt over it, their fighting butt over the end of that. I like to go back over, leave a little bit. Just sliding this down, leave a little bit so I can tuck on the inside. And I think that's pretty good right there. And so what I want to do is go ahead and set that up. The next thing I want to do is get my shrink tube material lined up how I think I may want it. What I mean by that is if you want the cross pattern on this to be in a specific spot, you probably want to go ahead, if you want it to line up with thread work, if you want the cross pattern to be symmetrical with something else, you would go ahead and rotate that a little bit before you start applying heat. So I have my shrink tube on there. I've got a little space here that I want to have extra. Just doing a little checking here. Okay. All right, and then I think just a tiny bit more. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do, so once I have that fit, all the way down on the handle, I've got anything lined up, any cross pattern or decoration that I want lined up with any decorative wrap or any of the things I'm doing to the gaff. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start applying some heat with my heat gun. And so we're going to work down here on the back end for you so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see it starting to shrink already. And you want to start at one end and work towards the other. So I'm going to stop right there for a second. So what I want to show you is, I came off and left this little bit here on the end. So what I like to do is now take this and push it inside the gaff handle. You add a little bit of heat to that. Hold on a second. Shrinking that down just a little bit. And I'll stop. Then what I'll do is I'll just take it and push it straight in. Get it in there with your finger a little bit. And then come back with some heat. And finish off the shrinking process. So I'm basically tucking that inside the butt of the blank. And then that's good enough. And then I will just keep adding the heat on the shrink tube. I just rotate it as I go, making sure I'm moving in one direction, taking all the extra material out, making sure I'm not leaving any air pockets in there. You just go a little slow, it's a little time consuming, but you want to make sure you just take your time, don't rush it, you don't want to burn it, you don't want it too hot. And then that's really it. I just keep working all the way down that handle, and shrinking that shrink tube down around the blank, the gaff blank handle. And then that's really it. And once I have it down, then I can go ahead and start thinking about, adding my butt to the back end, my fighting butt down here. And then of course, securing or tying in the loose end at the front end towards the gaff with any thread work that I want to do. And so that's, again, super easy, but that's adding shrink tube, how to add shrink tube to your gaff handle, and the pro tip on how to measure properly for your shrink tube, right? Have the diameter of the butt, go ahead and compare that by the next opening size larger than the diameter of your butt in the shrink tube. Secure bond with the shrink tube. So I hope this video helps. If you like it, go ahead, hit the like button. Please feel free to share this video with anybody you think that'll get something out of it. And watch this next video here. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. And until next time, take care.